everyone, and welcome into our sprint on blending the high school and college experience. We're super excited to hang out with all of you today. And if you're watching on the recording, hi, and welcome to our sprint. So we have some folks joining us today, and then we'll have others joining for the evening sprint. Today, we're going to really try to get some background in this space before we start to innovate. And so that's going to be our main purpose today. We'll go with some quick introductions, then we'll hit the Padlet, and then we'll get to work. So I'm going to share screen and do some quick introductions. So I am Justin Bathon. I'm a professor at the University of Kentucky, chair of educational leadership studies, the faculty director of our Center for Next Generation Leadership. And I am super hyper passionate about school models and deeper learning and different ways to build learning experiences for kids. So that is me.
Hey, everybody. I'm Benjamin Sheridan. I'm a co-founder and director of a professional learning company called 407. I'm also, as Justin mentioned earlier, a PhD candidate at the University of Kentucky. I'm also a What School Could Be Fellow, which is sort of how I am here in this setting. So super exciting work that What School Could Be is doing. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, check out their community, join the community. There's stuff like this going on all the time. I've been working in education for over 20 years, and in that time, most of my time has actually been working overseas. And most of my classroom experience has actually been in kindergarten and in the elementary school, but I have taught actually across P12. And I currently live and work in Bangkok, and I live here with my family. My wife is a social emotional counselor. She works with early years through year 2, which is grade 1, so 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7-year-olds, and then I have 2 boys, one in middle school and one in high school, and that's them.
All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Neomia Hagans-Flores. I am the director of dual credit at the University of Kentucky and an associate director at the Center for Next Generation Leadership. I am a passionate advocate for students, especially students that are in marginalized populations. I'm a first-generation student. I'm currently working on my PhD in higher education, and I love 90s R&B. So just so you guys know, so I haven't had my playlist playing this morning yet, so it may sneak in here at some point in time. This is my wonderfully rowdy family, my husband, Chris, and my 2 boys, Isaiah and Micah, and the boss of all of us, Amaya, in the middle. As you can see, she's throwing a little bit of a fit. That's her in her raw, natural state. And so, as you all should know, this morning has been a little bit of a journey already. I feel like I've already worked 5 hours just getting her to daycare this morning. So good morning, excited to chat with you guys today and to learn.
All right, so the format, if you haven't joined one of our sprints before, it is participatory. So we're going to be asking you to participate. We're very interested in hearing your thoughts, and we want you to share your thinking, and hopefully your thinking changes or grows over the course of our time together. And we're super interested in how your thinking changes, and we want you to share your thoughts, share your opinions, push back, stretch our thinking as well. So we're very excited to hear what you have to say. So cameras on if you feel comfortable, mic muted. When appropriate, come off mute, but please definitely engage in the chat. It's there. We'll be monitoring. So whoever's talking won't be monitoring the chat, but whoever's not talking will be monitoring the chat. So if you have questions or you want to agree with something or you want to ask a question, drop it in the chat. We'll do our best to address it. You can also use the reactions if something pops up that you really like. So let's have some respectful, supportive dialogue. So we'll use like a yes and approach. Like if we hear something we want to further or discuss, we want to use it yes and. We have a bunch of resources that we're going to share with you in just a second. They are all free to share. So share and share alike. You can take anything that we share with you and share it with whoever you like. And a reminder, this is the first of 2 90-minute sessions. All right. And the outcomes. Justin, did you want to talk about these or you want me to roll through them?
I'm
You're still
happy
on
to
mute.
do it.
Okay, yeah.
Yep, I'm happy to do it.
Good.
We have them in the Padlet too, and we're going to share the Padlet in just a second. So these are some of the outcomes we identified earlier. So I want you to at least identify one unknown model of early college dual credit that you've never seen before that you're interested in. We want to spend some time with equity of access challenges. We're going to do some of that work today. And we are going to be able to distinguish some of these different forms of dual credit. And then in your own spaces, begin to identify how might we questions that we can begin to pursue. There is so much possibility in this particular space. I want to actually go to the Padlet real fast before we go to today's flow, just to, I put some outcomes and I like refresh the outcomes over here in this second one. So a lot of those outcomes are the same, but like this is the outcome I actually want down here. Have your breath taken away by the scope and possibility of the college and high school space. Like that is the thing I actually want to have happen over the next 2 days when we meet. And I know that's ambitious, and maybe you already fully know this space and you're like, nothing is surprising. But Neoma and I consistently have this feeling as we've been building dual credit at the University of Kentucky the last 4 or 5 years. We consistently get a breath taken away feeling from time to time about how much is possible in this space. And so if we are succeeding, hopefully we'll have given you a little bit of a taste of that during the next 2 days. So that is my actual outcome. There's the real outcomes, but that's the one I actually want. So, all right, sorry, Ben, that's a little personal privilege on my part. Okay, flow of the day. So back over to you.
Okay, so we're just going to jump on the Padlet shortly and do a quick icebreaker, and then so everybody sort of knows who's in the room, even though you've been introducing yourself in the chat. Thanks so much for doing that. So then we're going to talk a little bit about purpose and background of this space. And then we're going to do an activity, sort of the basics of dual credit agreement. Then we'll look at limitations and existing models of college and high school. And then we'll jump into another activity, a start, stop, continue, an opportunity and barriers. And then we're going to sort of end the day on a think, puzzle, explore thinking routine. And we're super excited to see what you think, what we talk about, what still puzzles you, as well as what you want to explore, because we're going to use your thinking to tweak and design our next session with you. So we're really hoping that you can give us some feedback at the end of today's session so that we can actually design the next session to be as impactful as we can. All right, so from here, we're going to go into a Padlet, right? And so if you could put that up, Justin, and we can have everybody join that. There is the QR code.
Correct.
And I'll
If you're
also
a QR code fan.
And I am also dropping a Padlet link. Oh, you got it already, Justin. Thanks. There's 2 Padlet links. It's the same Padlet, hopefully, that you can click in the chat, and that'll take you over to the Padlet. So the Padlet is not an option. We need you to get on there. It's got all the resources, and it's also a space for you to share your thinking, etc. So this is a space that we are going to co-create together. So we've populated it with a lot of stuff. But we're also going to be sharing our thinking in this space as well. So if you see on the far left, you'll see the icebreaker. All right. And if you click on that little plus down there at the bottom, that allows you to add your own post or card, if you will. And so just click on that plus. I can see people joining it. Yeah, just click on that plus, add your name, your location, your position, and your educational superpower. And if you're feeling super fancy, you can add a selfie. So like you notice, Justin just clicked on that plus, the little thing opened up. You can write your name, and then underneath that, you can write, where it says write something beautiful, you can write, name, location, position, educational superpower. And then you can add a selfie if you like. And if you're doing this on your phone, it's much easier to do the selfie, because you can get it in a good position, or add some filters if you want. Feel free. All right, we have people still joining. Someone just joined us. So for those who just joined us, thanks. We're actually just pulling up a Padlet. So I just dropped the Padlet link in the chat. So you want to click on that link and jump over to the Padlet and go ahead and fill in the icebreaker.
Well, I'm getting a photo, team. I'm getting a photo,
Yeah.
doing the thing.
Yep, totally.
Along.
All right, so Nay's a winner. She got on there first.
Good job, Nay.
It's fun watching. This is kind of fun. This is worth it, just watching you try and do this, Justin.
Giving up on the photo. I did it well last time.
I can do
I
the
know.
Padlet, but I
Now
can't
that I'm on share
remember
screen,
to-
everybody, the pressure's up.
I know, exactly.
I can do the Padlet, but I can't ever remember to unmute myself most of the time, so.
Right,
you'll just have
exactly.
to bear with me today.
Awesome. Thanks, Katie. And hello, Pretty. Welcome in. And correct us if we're saying that wrong.
Yep.
Good to see you. Oh, unmute.
Is it Preeti? Yes.
Yes. Okay. Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you for dumping in those. The reason we do it this way is, remember, we have the evening session too. So getting to see like who's in the morning and who's in the evening and making connections to each other in the world is something that we want to have happen, because this is, of course, part of a Kentucky community that we're all living in part of, but also a global what school could be community. And so getting to meet and see people that are interested in this from all over the world. And so like just in the room, we have, just in Kentucky, we've got both Louisville and Lexington and Northern Kentucky all represented. And so, and then Preeti, I'm super curious where you are at in the world. And so just to get a sense of where we're coming from. You're still muted. Sorry.
Can you unmute yourself, Preeti? Or you can drop it in the chat too, if you'd like.
Okay.
Oh,
Now
there
you
you
can
go.
hear.
Awesome.
I am audible now. I am audible now.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Where are you joining from, Preeti?
I am from India, sir.
Oh, great.
Great.
Excellent.
Well, welcome.
I am from
Okay.
India and my state is Gujarat.
Good job. Okay.
Yes.
Well, lovely. Welcome. Okay, so superb. So I'm super curious about what a similar space looks like in India, and what the mixture between high school and college looks like there. And so I'm really fascinated by, so jump in through the conversation at several points so that you can contribute, like, what does this look like in your space? So if you, yeah, so one of the ways I want to know more about that is in the Padlet, in the third column, is I want to know which sort of blend between high school and college you're most familiar with. So again, go to the plus icon and paste a link to the dual credit or early college or college and high school program that you are most familiar with. So we are over here on the Padlet. Padlet is still linked up in chat, and we're in that third column. So I know, like Dr. Paulin, unless you happen to be more familiar with some other program. Okay, yeah, right. Dr. Paulin teaches for us in our program here at the University of Kentucky that Neomia and I got the honor of building from scratch. And I would say Dr. Paulin is sort of one of our founding faculty members in our program. But I'm curious to what others know as well. What are the other programs that you've experienced? Because one of the things we want to do is learn more about what's going on out there, because there's so much going on. And remember, we'll have the evening session coming in. And so when we pop back to this on Thursday, we'll get to see where they were working at too, what they're familiar with. All right, awesome. The Academies of Louisville and JCTC integrations with the community college from April, which makes sense because there's huge community college integration in Jefferson County spaces. All right, awesome. So keep posting those in, and I'm going to give a little bit of background before we sort of turn over to some equity work. If you're okay, keep posting those in because we want to know where are you already familiar. So I want to clue you into a report that really triggered my own thinking in this entire space, and which is going to serve as sort of a guide for us. Jobs for the Future is an education policy shop that I'm familiar with and I've followed for a long time. And they're one of the very few policy shops in the country that have thought a lot about this integration between high school and college in the United States. What they have a report called The Big Blur, and I've got it linked up in the Padlet. So everything we talk about today is all linked up in the Padlet, so you can go find all of the resources. So that report, The Big Blur, was fascinating to me in terms of how these spaces of high school and college and work are all beginning to merge together, and that this space is really blurring. In our experience of helping to build a dual credit program from scratch here at the University of Kentucky, it does sort of feel that way. We are definitely blurring the line between college and high school in terms of like, when does college start? Well, now it starts in the high school, junior year of high school for many kids. And that's a very different place than our traditional notions of what high school is and what college is and what the labor force is. And so I love that blur sort of thinking, and that's going to sort of underpin the kind of work that we are undertaking over the next 2 days as we hang out together. So for those unfamiliar with the space, just some quick research on dual credit. First off, this is called many different things. Like, there's just a whole bunch of different things it could be called. I've come to like the concept of college and high school as an overarching terminology for all the different possibilities that live in this space. And there are actual terms of art. So like concurrent enrollment is a term of art from the National Association of Concurrent Enrollment Programs, NACEP, if you want to go look them up. They specifically say concurrent enrollment is only when the high school teacher is doing the teaching. So like if the college teacher is doing the teaching, then it can't be concurrent enrollment. I don't know, right? And dual enrollment and dual credit both mean slightly different, but almost the same things. And then you have these labels with the word college, like early college and middle college, and they have some of their own terms of art. We can spend some time unpacking. You can ask questions about all of those different terms of art. There's more out there actually than just this list. But overarching college and high school is sort of this general term that we're going to sort of use for just for this sprint. Yeah, okay. Yeah, good. But I am fascinated by this. I mean, it is a fascinating space. And so generally, we're just using a basic definition of dual credit. And you'll hear us use the word dual credit a lot because it's a popular term in Kentucky, which is where we operate. And so for those that are joining from outside Kentucky, we'll use that, but we're referring to all these different possibilities. So some of the summary of the best research. So the place that does a lot of the best archiving of all the different possibilities is College and High School Alliance. And so if you want to go see like where is an anchor institution that is trying to bring together a bunch of the different players in this space and try to track the research that's going on, you can go to the College and High School Alliance. So they have a page that is dedicated to evidence of success. And that evidence of success page is tracking some of the major findings, research findings in this space. And so you can see like here in June 2022, a new research came out, and I'm going to cite some of that research up next. So they are trying to pay attention to some of the major data points. So if you want to go and just get sort of one place where you can see lots of the different research behind this, go there. And that's linked up in the Padlet, so you can go and check that out. This is one of those super rare things, though, for which there is actual research agreement that this concept of dual credit in college and high school does work. What Works Clearinghouse is sort of one of the gold standards from the Department of Education in the United States at the federal level, that has really high standards about what they consider to be what works, but listed under what works is dual credit programs. They have positive effects on degree attainment, college access and enrollment, credit accumulation, completing high school, and then overall just general academic achievement. So there's high effects on all of those particular areas. Then there are medium effects on students staying in school, college readiness, attendance, dual enrollment programs. And then not a lot of effect yet on general academic achievement in college itself. That's a really funny outcome that's consistent, which is like, so these programs get kids to higher rates, they do better in high school, the attendance goes up, the completion goes up, the retention in college goes up, but they don't necessarily get better grades in college, right? And that's actually a consistent result both in dual credit and early college research spaces. And so now there's a ton of good that's happening here, so that, you know, like we won't like be completely freaked out by that one data point that is not the screamingly amazing data point. But you do see that consistent data point of they don't necessarily all become straight A students in college as a result of this thing. They perform at similar rates in college. But what you get from these programs is a whole bunch more students going to college and retaining better and completing their degrees faster for less money. So there's a whole bunch of positive effects going on here. But the one effect that's consistently, we don't see an effect, is once they get to college, what do their grades look like? Okay, so I'm going to dive into this real fast just to do a quick additional summary. This is super recent from the University of Utah, and they're trying to put out more research priorities around the space. Like, if you want to go, if there's 1 million dissertations in this space, 1 million. And so this paper has like all the next studies we should do in it. But as they're setting that up, they are giving us some basic data, which is really useful. So there's just tons of variability in this space, and we're going to get into that. But that first one gives you a sense of how big the space is. So in the United States, we have 1.4 million high school students participating in dual enrollment each year across the country. So this is actually a really quite large thing. In many states, you have 50% of the high school population of juniors and seniors taking college courses in high school. Some states as high as 60%. So it's widespread and growing, but it has dramatic variation across it. Really positive enrollment, positive high school and college outcome effects, as we just talked about, and students save money, they save time, they prepare for college, and they seek more positive educational environments. So they're more likely to not just pursue the easiest path college choice, they're more likely to make their own sort of intelligent choice about where they want to go to college. However, also, students report vastly different experiences in dual credit, like just a ton of variability in what the actual experience of this space is. Tons of variability by affordability. What each institution's practices are vary by institution to institution to institution, not even state by state. So like the variability is just like 10 out of 10. And we have some really serious equity concerns in this space. And Neoma is going to dive into those a bit more in a second. I have more evidence that we love from additional research studies, all stuff that you can dive into. We don't have to dive into now. There's just tons of great research out there on this thing. So now, though, I have a series of questions for you in our first activity. Okay, so back into our Padlet. I would like to see if we just have some agreement about some basic things. So you've already practiced using the Padlet. And so here is the Big Blur study. And then here is all that data and reports on dual credit that we love. So all the stuff I was just citing all lives right through there. We'll circle back around to this one, which is the cost benefit analysis of this, because, you know, I love me some economic data. But here is our opening question. So I have a quick question for you, right? So if you would add a comment on what is the right number of college credits to offer in high school. So just put your own sense of what's the right number of college credits to offer in high school. Just type it in, add a comment, and type it in real fast, and let's get a sense of the room. What's the right number of college credits to enter in high school? And there's no right answer also. So like, this is not a quiz. This is actually trying to get what's your sense of. So type in your comments, and we just want to be fast to just throw some data at it. All right, awesome, thanks. 20 credits, love it. 30 credits, yay. Keep them coming, keep them coming. I know there's 60 credit people out there. Where's my 60 credit people? Yeah, 3 per class, exactly. So in the US context, we're doing however many classes you have in your mind multiplied by 3, and then that would be the number of credits that we're awarding in this space. I'd love it if there were more options other than just 3 credits per class. Yeah, so like, do we have to be locked into that? So there's definitely the 60 credit folks out there, which is the associates. And some folks like Texas has in legislative definition that you can't call something an early college unless a kid could get to 60 credits while they're in high school. And so there are some states have specific rules about how many credits to equal this name and how many credits to equal this name. So we'll blame Texas for that. 10 to 15 credits. Okay, awesome. Just in this room, you can see how much variability there is about how many credits we should have. Who is the best person that is positioned to offer this class in high school? And so what I'm asking is like, who's the best instructor and who do they work for? That's our next one up. Sorry, I've got a few of these because like there's this, I wanted you to get a sense of the variability. Okay, yeah,
So
for
just,
both.
yeah, so you mean like a high school teacher versus a college teacher versus like a graduate
Somebody,
student versus a tenured
sure.
professor versus a associate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, all those different variations are at play. Of course, there's fans of both. We like both at the University of Kentucky, so yay, I'm glad to see some both answers coming in. But there's a real question about who is the best positioned instructor for the courses. All right, what is the right delivery format? You all are taking the easy way out. I'm trying to force you to a choice and everybody's like, both, pick both. All right, delivery formats, what are you guys thinking? Oh, wow. So there we do have some real clarity about what we think is the best way to do the class. Okay, lovely. Now
But I want to know, in person at the high school or in person at college?
Ooh,
At a
nice.
separate facility.
Lovely. Okay, next one up is hybrid coming in. All right, love it. How many different colleges / transcripts should a kid be accessing while they're still in high school? How many different colleges should a kid be working with while they're still in high school? I know that seems like a weird question, right? But that's an actual question in this space. Okay, doesn't matter as long as it transfers. 1 to 2. All right, and you can see I've got some economic questions below that in terms of who pays the bill. There's a bill for the instructor, and then there is an overall bill for the college class. And that is certainly something that might be a bit United States specific. Not all countries make families pay for college in the way that the United States does. But here in the United States, we expect families to pay. And so who pays each of those different things? All right, the overall point of this is not that there are right answers. Yeah, look at the question. I don't even know who should pay for this. But yes, exactly. We are facing a series of very difficult questions in this space. Foundational, like questions that we don't ever even bother to ask that often when it comes to our other systems of education. But for this particular space, we have to go ask really foundational questions like who pays for what? Who is the instructor? Where is the class happening? Like those are very, very foundational things that I love that because it gives us the ability to build completely new things, but also, wow, those are really hard, difficult questions to wrestle with. And then in the midst of all of that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Nay. We are facing some really big equity questions in this particular space. So you want to share? I'm going to stop sharing. I'll just turn it over to you, Nay, if you want to share from your screen.
Well, sharing from my screen always gets a little bit dangerous, but we'll do it. All right. So before we begin, I just want to say, Justin has really led us into some of the really complex spaces of dual credit. So we hear about how awesome it is, how great it is, and the positive benefits for students. But behind that veil of the outcomes, there are a ton of other things going on there. So what we're going to spend some time doing, not sharing that, okay, making sure that I don't have all of my 18 screens up for you guys. We're going to talk about some of the limitations of existing models and what that's looking like in real time. So we're going to start here by watching a little bit of this video and getting a little bit of idea, and then we're going to launch into a little bit of a discussion around some particular students.
Dual enrollment allows students to take credit-bearing college courses while simultaneously taking their high school classes. Participating students get early access to college.
Wait, I don't know if you're sharing. Are you sharing? We're not yet.
It reduces some of the financial burden.
Yeah, I thought I was.
Oh, were we?
Well, let's
Sorry.
go back. Can you see the screen?
No, we couldn't see it.
Okay.
You want me to? I can do the sharing.
Okay.
And I want
Can
to
you see it now.
Yeah. Did you click though when you went to share screen? Did you click share the audio?
It never asked me to. So can you hear?
The benefits of a high-quality dual enrollment program can really make a difference for first-generation students and others who are underserved, such as students of color and those from low-income families. A high-quality dual enrollment program meets 4 criteria. 1, courses meet the same level of rigor as those taught to traditional college students. 2, instructors meet the same expectations as instructors of similar traditional college courses and receive appropriate support and evaluation. 3, school districts and higher education institutions publicly report on student participation and outcomes. 4, programs undergo evaluation based on available data. Unfortunately, too few students have access to high-quality dual enrollment programs, and that needs to change. The good news is that dual enrollment participation is growing and fast. The most recent national data show the number of students taking these courses grew 67% from 2002 to 2010. And more recent data from individual states shows that growth has continued, In Texas, for example, participation grew from 28,000 in 2002 to 140,000 in 2016. Yet, in many cases, the students who are likely to benefit the most from dual enrollment programs, students of color and low-income students, are not participating at high levels. Program participants are overwhelmingly white, high-achieving, female, and not from low-income backgrounds. But why? Our guess is that too many students face one of these three scenarios that limit their access to the benefits of this opportunity. One, bias and discrimination from program gatekeepers. Two, costs associated with participating in a program. And three, a lack of access to quality course programming. As advocates, it's our job to push our states, districts, and school leaders to take action and eliminate barriers that keep students from high-quality dual enrollment programs. Stay tuned to find out how to do just that.
Okay, so we have the Education Trust that has really set up some of the things that we're going to start talking about right now. But what we want to begin with is a little bit of a discussion amongst ourselves. So in a second, I'm going to give you 3 profiles of students to take a look at. In the current state, so in the status quo, how we currently are and what we know about dual credit opportunities. How likely are these students to attend college while in high school or even college after high school? And what kind of factors play into your decision making? So I'm going to go ahead and put those up on the screen for you for a little bit to think and read a little bit, and I'll talk through a couple of them. And then we're going to start having a discussion about it. So first we have Natalia. She's 16. She's African-American. She's female, 19 ACT GPA 3.6. She currently isn't taking any honors or AP classes. She's free reduced lunch. She looks like she has a little bit of a problem of being behaved in school. So we have that going on. She's not engaging outside of the classroom, and she's a first generation student. So her mom is a high school dropout and her father graduated. Beyond that, then we have student 2, who's Joseph. He's also African-American and 16. He got a 16 on his ACT and a 2.5 GPA, and he's also not engaged in any AP courses. He's free and reduced lunch. He's had a couple of behavior problems, but he's in football and band. And his mother is a high school graduate, and his father, he does not have enough information on him to know. And then we have Camille, who has the lowest of the ACT scores at a 12 and the lowest of the GPAs. And she's not having any behavior issues, but she does have an IEP. Okay, so looking at these students, how likely are these students to be participating in college during high school or attending college? And we can unmute or we can put it in the chat, but let's have a discussion around some of that.
I'm going to jump in from the math department side at UK, looking at these ACT scores. The department would place Natalia in one of our lowest serving courses, and the other 2 would have to take remedial math to get into our courses. So, I mean, I'm from the math side, this is a pretty rough bunch that we would not expect to see much from, I guess, which is sad. We don't want that, but
Okay, thank you.
But sadly, I think just the ACT scores, I mean, a lot of us are going test optional now, but those still have a big impact, I think, on what people see from these students.
What else is standing out to you guys about these students and their possible outcomes? Dr. Clark, we can't hear you. Go ahead and put it over in the chat.
Yeah. And then select a different audio input, April, because definitely want your voice in the room.
Who just doesn't know? And it's okay not to know.
Yeah, I have no clue because I'm not super clued into. I mean, I've lived outside the US for so long that I'm not clued into, like, you know, where things fall and whatnot. And we don't, and my kids don't go to a traditional, like, you know, what you would consider like a public school system. So like they're on a whole separate, I guess, measurement system. So I wouldn't know.
Can you guys hear me? This is Michelle.
Yeah.
Hear me? One of the things that I noticed is the family educational background. None of these families have any college experience, it seems to me. So it's hard for families to promote and encourage what they don't know. If that makes sense. I know working in a school district, my daughter's friends who come to my house, my daughter has taken a lot of dual credit classes when we talk about college. And when she has a friend over whose parents never experienced college, never filled out a FAFSA, doesn't really know what AP is, that isn't a conversation that they've ever been a part of. That's what I notice about these students.
Okay. I mean, one of the observations that you may have about Natalia and Joseph is that they're spending time away from school because of behavior issues. So how able are they to engage in experiences, in the rigorous experiences that are being offered at school if they are in suspension or in detention or not participating?
April dropped in the chat, says the lack of honors or AP courses at the high school level, many of the college level courses require teacher recommendations and course sequences that these students are not taking.
Okay. So overall, we're painting a pretty grim picture for these students, right? Their ACTs are not looking great. They aren't having the familial support that they need. This is not to even mention, you know, Camille's IEP and her additional academic support that may be needed. All right, so let's talk about that. So we're looking at these students, and these are, you know, typical students that can be in a high school located here in Kentucky or anywhere in the United States, or, you know, they could be anywhere in the world for us. But in terms of limitations, these students are living within an ecosystem in which we look first at the limitations at a structural level. So we have dual credit is either at a feast or a famine. You will have some schools who have tons of opportunities for dual credit offered in their building, a college campus nearby that students get to go to, online capabilities. So they're offering 10 to 12 dual credit courses a year or in a semester to their students. Or you'll have school districts that do not have any dual credit certified teachers who are not located near a college campus, whose internet capabilities or technology is not supportive of dual credit models. So you'll find very little of that happening. A second reason, which was mentioned in the video, is cost. Okay, so you have cost concerns going on from parents, and that looks very different from what we do in Kentucky, which is there's a dual credit scholarship where students get 4 dual credit classes for free, to students who are paying full tuition in other states, and some students who never have to pay for a dual credit course at all, regardless. There's a lack of trained college access and advising and retention specialists in schools. So we ask our guidance counselors in high schools to do a lot of work, and some of it they aren't set up to do. So they aren't trained to be college advisors, to be admissions specialists. They are not taught to be college retention specialists. And so now they're taking on these additional roles in addition to testing and everything else that they have to deal with and scheduling in their own building. For some schools, this goes up to our feast and famine. We have transportation issues. So some folks just don't have access to college campuses close to them or transportation available to get students there. There's communication and processes across systems that it's very difficult to navigate both of those for a guidance counselor, for a student, and for a teacher who may be involved. So some students I had this aha moment, and I was sitting and having a conversation with some students, and they were like, yeah, I take dual credit with 3 different schools. And I sat down and I thought about, what does that really mean? That means that they had to go through 3 different admissions processes to 3 universities. They have 3 different emails for those universities and a high school email. They have probably 3 different platforms in which they have to work on in order to submit their work or engage in their classes. So these students are really, really, really having to navigate a lot of technology and a lot of different platforms in this. Scheduling, if you get Justin and I talking about scheduling, that's a whole sprint on its own, okay? So when we're talking about scheduling is probably one of the most difficult things when we're talking about dual credit. Colleges and universities run on a certain particular schedule that they offer courses. High schools run on another scheduling cycle. And the scheduling cycles that high schools run on are completely different. I have compared schedules of high schools from all over our state, and I have not found a single school who begins at the same time. Okay, so we have some serious things wrapping around all of these students, in addition to the things that we just talked about, that will enable their success and access to these courses. So we're going to talk about a really key thing that was mentioned in both the video and that Justin mentioned earlier, which is equity. So for this platform, we're talking about equity means each individual or group of people is giving the same resources or opportunities. As we've already talked about, we can already see there's some issues with equity in the dual credit space, okay? And equity recognizes that each person has different circumstances and allots the resources and opportunities needed for students to do that. Now, in this space, in dual credit, when we were talking about the students, we spent a lot of time talking about this here. So this achievement gap. And in education, we love talking about the achievement gap, which is the academic outcomes of particular students in comparison to others. So when we're talking about GPA, we're talking about ACT, we're talking about behavior, we're talking about any of those kind of things that we wrap around students that we're submitting to colleges for them to look at, or that we are making huge decisions on students about, we're usually talking about that achievement gap. What we don't typically talk about is necessarily always this opportunity gap. And these are things like Michelle mentioned about the parents' knowledge base when it comes to college. So these are things talking about things that go into bias, that go into resource allotment based on zip codes of schools, socioeconomic status and ability to afford or have access to things, and opportunities in life that are given to certain students at birth versus students that are born into less advantaged circumstances. Okay, so we spend a lot of time talking about those two things. Well, more so the achievement gap than the opportunity gap. So let's take a look at this really quickly. And what are some things that we noticed right away about this, about this? April, we're still not hearing you. Can you unmute for us? Right now it's showing that you're muted. Well,
Feel free to throw in chat too.
Yeah. So what are we noticing a little bit between the difference between non-participants and participants? What are their outcomes looking like? So this is participation in dual credit.
It goes up for everybody, but the line is steeper. The slope is steeper on the low income line.
So what are we in terms of participation, in terms of achievement? Over here, we're also looking at the difference between underrepresented minorities and not URM. What are we looking at in their levels of participation? We're seeing that underrepresented minority, they do participate, and there's higher rates of there's participation, but there's a huge gap in between these. So the gap that we tend to look at is the difference between if you participate and not. But what we need to look a little bit more, I think, about is this difference here in between. We see it's helping both, but how does it get there? When we look at the numbers of students participating, here's the data nationwide, females participating at higher rates, you know, get them girls. But at the same time, we're looking at our underrepresented minority students participating at far lower rates, underprepared students, what we consider underprepared students, so based on ACT scores, rigor in classrooms, far lower rates, low income students participating at far lower rates. So we have a lot less students participating in dual credit. And this is despite the evidence that tells us that it's better for them. So Justin talked about evidence that stated dual credit is better for all students. So if it is the case that it's better for all students, why are not all students getting access to these materials? So there we go. So despite showing dual credit, especially on underrepresented minority students, fewer students from these populations are participating. Lower percentage of Hispanic, Black students are taking dual credit than white and Asian students. So what I would like to propose is that maybe that the equity of opportunity gap may be influencing the achievement gap, not vice versa in the way we tend to think about it. If we aren't giving students opportunity to these rich outcomes, how in the world are we ever going to get to this level of achievement? Going back to our profiles for just a second. So all of those profiles are actually profiles of students that I know very deeply and intimately that I know. And one of them is actually myself. Okay, so I'm Camille. I was okay in school, but I was not a good behaving student. Okay, I was in and out of the building, skipping class and in the choir room, eating my breakfast, doing all kinds of things that I did not need to be doing in high school. Okay, but what happened is that I was presented with an opportunity. A Black male came into my school and said, "Hey, there's college out there and you may want to start thinking about it." And because I was presented that opportunity, it changed the entire trajectory of my life. Okay, the other two students as well, one of them is currently a high school principal. The last student, she has 2 degrees. She is a certified cosmetologist as well as a CNA now. And so what we need to really start thinking about is not just necessarily the opportunities that we're putting in the building, but really who is getting access to those opportunities. And are some of our mental models about who can be successful or not, can that be erased? Can that be eliminated? And can we work to make sure that we're making things equitable and accessible for all students so that we can have the best possible outcomes? Okay, so we're going to spend a little bit of time. So these are some folks that have thought about this deeply. These are the 5 Metacratic principles for equal opportunity for every child. 1, no nepotism. 2, no cronyism. No discrimination, equal opportunities, and rewarding merit for students based upon what they have achieved, with opening these doors to all of these things that happen here. Here, schools of opportunity selection criteria. When Justin and I were thinking about our dual credit model and our work at NextGen, we did a lot of thinking about schools of opportunity and their criteria for what schools look like who are really opening the doors broadly to students and how they operate. So, and all of these resources are there, but I want to move. So the criterion is mandatory. they send in documents. They have all of these schools and they're looking at criterion. So they have them based upon who's exemplary, who's advanced, who's mid to early and early planning in each one of those areas. So really take some time to go to their website or get on the Padlet, pull up their website and look into what each one of these criteria look like and how, and see where are we at in this? Where are we at in this opportunity work? And what can we do to make it better? Okay, so we have a discussion. What can we implement in schools to close the opportunity gap for accessing college and high school? If you go to the Padlet, and I'm gonna stop sharing this, let's do this, okay. If you go over to the Padlet over here, you'll see our student profile. So first of all, we're going to think about this in stops, starts, and what should we continue doing? So what should we stop doing? What should we start doing? And what can we continue to do that are already good practices? So just like before, go ahead and add some comments in those areas. And I'll try to practice restraint with wait time, which I really struggle with. So you guys are just going to have to keep me in check.
Yeah, there's always the awkward side, but if you look, you can see people, furiously typing away. Their hands are moving, their eyes are focused.
Whoever wrote this, you're my people. Get rid of test score requirements. I'm telling you. Speaking my love language. So we have a lot of people on my test score bandwagon. I love it. I love it. What other kind of things can we think about that we can stop doing? If you're stuck there, move on to any of the other ones. So what can we start doing? So promoting dual credit access, universal applications, how much easier would it be if a student only had to complete one application versus
so Nay, can you explain that to me? That the universal application, is that what it sounds like? They make one application, they can use that same one for all of the programs?
Yeah, so in college land, we do a common app in which you can apply to several colleges at one time. What if we created one for dual credit for students while they're in high school, in which they could complete one application, have access to multiple? Starting early. Okay, that's the question. How early? How early should we be starting with students in dual credit? Justin, we may need to add that one.
That's another one of those great variables. Like what is the right semester to start? And I would love detailed. I would love second semester, sophomore year is the exact right start time.
Are there any things that we're currently doing in our schools or in our current environments that we need to continue doing, that we feel like we're doing right and we need to keep on doing it? For me, I would put in here seeking partnerships, because I see a lot of schools really seeking partnerships actively with colleges to bring dual credit into their building.
Sweet mercy. The Schools of Opportunity site has gone down. I realized we didn't have it on the Padlet, and so I went to grab it. So I'll work.
It was up a couple of weeks ago.
I know. It's run out of the University of Colorado. So I don't know if the University of Colorado is not paying their registration hosting bills or what, but we can talk with our friends at the University of Colorado and ask them what's going on. But we do have a professor here at UK who is tightly connected. Anyway, we'll get that data. But on the schools of opportunity criteria, it is one of my favorite things. All right, are we ready to move forward?
Yeah, I think so. Okay, thank you all for participating with that and thinking about how to make these spaces more equitable for all of these students.
Yeah, there's a lot that we can do, but here's a big mental shift that we're going to take the rest of today's sprint and then Thursday's sprint around. So Nate, if you are willing to stop share, I'm going to grab it and take it back over. So there is some words that we have come to adore that you're going to see them and you're going to be like, oh yeah, that's what we're doing. So let me broadcast and then you can see what those words are. So this is a pretty accurate description of this world right now. I've been trying to trace down like, where did those series of words come from? And I think I can trace them to Indiana. They were using those words in Indiana about 4 or 5 years ago. And then this article came out in Inside Higher Education, which really started to solidify the space. So anyway, I think the folks in Indiana are to give some credit for describing accurately what's we're seeing in the space, which is, for the most part, we're seeing random acts of dual credit, which is dual credit's not a new idea. It's been around 25, 30, 40 years. But over the course of that time, there's just been a lot of random acts. Individual school here or there will do this individual program with this individual college, and it's totally random. And that, I think, has been a big driver for us and where we want to center the rest of the sprint. So I'll offer this video, and I'm going to stop sharing, make sure I'm sharing appropriately real fast. Clicking all of the right boxes. To give a sense of like what happens when you stop being random, and specifically what happens when the high school begins to take charge.
My name is Whitney and I live in Eminence, Kentucky. I live with my mom and my 2 younger siblings. I go to school at Eminence Independent and Bellarmine University. I've always had a thing for anatomy.
Whitney's a special young lady, and our early college program has been her vehicle to see the potential of her future. The Eminence spirit is to keep looking forward. What drives us is giving kids the freedom and the empowerment to do whatever they put their minds to. We want to give them opportunities and experiences that would far exceed anything that any generation of Eminence student had ever had before.
We felt like we were having students graduate academically prepared to go to post-secondary education, but kids would go, they would spend maybe a semester, maybe 2, and then all of a sudden they're back in town, they didn't complete.
We were having huge dropout rates, and so we needed to do something.
Dr. Berry and I cold called Bellarmine University and said, we have a crazy idea we'd like to pitch to you.
And with one yes, the Bellarmine Eminence Partnership was born. 250 kids have gone through it, and 249 are still in college.
So this was an opportunity in a relatively safe environment to get them thinking about college, what college is like, what college level work is like, and let those students explore a little bit rather than just throwing them in the deep end. You know, college, especially if you come from a family that has no college experience, I mean, it's very daunting.
I didn't go to college, so I think it's done good for Whitney. She's always been a go-getter, and she wants to be a neurosurgeon.
My mom's been supportive, but it's a little difficult because she doesn't know how to help me out, so I've had to turn.
Didn't cut that off at the exact right place. I'll have to fix that. I have to turn to the kind of supports that the high school has been offering. It's intentionality that I want to spend the next few minutes on. So however you define this idea of early college, what I define the early college as different from dual credit is the intentionality in the custom crafting of a designed experience for kids to access college. Rather than random acts of dual credit, right now we want to transition to intentional design of early college experiences. When you begin to get into this intentional design space, the actual benefits in the research skyrocket. And even economically, they skyrocket. I love this study, it's pretty recent, on the cost benefit analysis of early college high schools. So early college high schools do cost more. You're mixing together college and high school spaces. And so over the course of 4 years per kid, that costs about $3,800 more in this cost benefit analysis. Okay, great. For that $3,800 per kid that we invested extra to let them blend the space of, intentionally blend the space of college and high school, what is the return that we get on that investment? And you can see that this particular study found a lot of additional increased lifetime earnings for these kids. And then those lifetime earnings wind up returning back to the public coffers in the form of taxes and contributions that these kids are making as they move forward in their lives. And this is the American Institutes of Research. So like no small little study here. This is a major research study from a massive research center that is finding for that $3,800 investment in the intentional early college experience, society is seeing something like a $57,000 return, a 15-to-1 return on the extra bit of money that we might spend on intentionally designing an early college experience. So that's pretty powerful. But we're up against, this is the United States, and sorry, Preeti, I think you could do a different thing for all the different regions in India as well. Many different models. So the Education Commission of the States is an education policy shop that I love. I actually interned and worked there for a little while. And they do great stuff, like what's going on across all the different places. And you can sort of see like we have a lot of different things going on. Almost all states permit dual credit at this point, except for New York and Alaska and New Hampshire, which I don't know what's all going on there. But so they permit it, but then we see these massive variations in what's going on in voluntary participation, who's paying for the tuition. Are there annual evaluations of these programs? Nope, most places no. And like, are we forcing transfer for acceptance? Just a ton of different things going on. When you get into the specific early college spaces, only a few states, Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, North Carolina, Tennessee, and Texas have early college legislation that specifically defines early college as different than dual credit. And what does it mean then to be in early college? Well, we're going to speak more specifically to faculty qualifications, the different workforce needs that we're going to try to meet, program evaluation, new structures for tuition and financing, new structures for transfer credit, program evaluation. So instructional quality gets assessed, like what is the actual quality of the courses that are being offered? So that's the kind of stuff in those early college laws that exist out there. Now, all of that aside, like we can unpack policies and laws and get into all of that. What I want to leave you with today on today's sprint, as we then head off into the sprint ahead, is the potential of this space. So this particular program completely transformed my thinking in terms of what's possible. So this is Bard. Do you know Bard College? Bard College is a private liberal arts, quite expensive school up in New England. That is sort of the, like whatever you picture as like private liberal arts, expensive, yeah, that's sort of Bard. But Bard made a decision about 30 some years ago that they were going to get into this early college space. And the way that they've gotten into the early college space is to essentially take that private liberal arts experience and put it into high school. And don't just like leave high school in place and then put a couple of liberal arts classes around it. They said, no, we are going to take liberal arts college and that's going to be high school. So we're going to flip the mindset from dual credit being high school with a little bit of college mixed in to college with a little bit of high school left over. And that's a massive shift. And we'll give a couple of little video snippets and then we can unpack it as we sort of move forward to what we want to do next time. Oh no, sorry team.
First thing, I wake up, gotta get ready for school. I take AP history first, then I go to my Chinese class, and then after that I take pre-calc. Around 12:30 I leave, come to Bard, and get to the rigorous learning.
Bard Early College in New Orleans is a satellite program of Bard College, a 4-year private college of the liberal arts and sciences in New York State. Students in the Early College in New Orleans complete the first full year of undergraduate education during the last 2 years of high school, in the second half of the school day, earning nationally transferable Bard College credits, all at no cost to the students.
It's the liberal arts belief that if you are going to be a good doctor, you also need to be a good writer, a good philosopher, a good historian, a good communicator.
Our idea of morals, we see somebody lie, we think that's wrong. Animals, they don't have things like that to tell them what's right, what's wrong. They just live. They don't really think about those things.
Right, I mean, certainly ethics, abstract concepts. We know that animals aren't capable.
We're throwing these challenging questions at them. They sit down and write them. They reflect on their own writing. They share their writing. Then they come back to the group. And in that dialogue, I think a lot of insightful and rigorous thinking emerges. Ultimately, the goal is for that thinking to then find itself back in a text.
Oh yeah, you have to really question a lot of things. Like Descartes, he pretty much questioned the way he thought for 60, 50 years, something like that. So he pretty much started from the bottom and tried to build up again. So that makes me wonder, could I do that myself?
We got to be the defender and the prosecutor for a specific case, like whether or not someone deserved the death penalty. And that was really live and really exciting. I'm getting a better understanding of the world as my peers see it. And it really just opens my eyes up to a lot of things.
Okay, so I'm cutting this video into snippets. So that was like the first snippet that I wanted to play.
First thing, I wake up.
Now we're gonna go to the next snippet from Bard.
Can you imagine if this program expanded beyond just the very limited scope that you have here in New Orleans? Not only just to the city of New Orleans, but throughout the state. So some child from rural Louisiana is all of a sudden going to be given a vision about the world, or beyond the world, about the universe. And students are then getting college course credit at a high school level. They finish college more quickly, and that's a huge savings, not only for them, but for the state as well.
There's something uniquely compelling for young people about what goes on in a liberal arts classroom. And that's a classroom in which simple beliefs are opened up to find incredibly complicated landscapes of critical thought, of social problematics, and of the dynamics that make up our democracy.
I love art. It's just like I get to share my thoughts and my ideas, what topics mean to me. That's why I love coming to Bard.
Okay. So this is the challenge I want to leave you with today. And Ben is going to take us through what do we want to wrestle with that challenge. I would open questions. We got a couple of minutes. I'm open to questions around Bard Early College. I put a link in the Padlet, of course, go check it out. And that video is in the Padlet. You can go check that out. They have locations at about 8 different cities: Cleveland, Washington, D.C., maybe 2 in New York City. And they're, taking kids from a lottery-based system in these urban areas and putting them into a liberal arts college, and the kids are accelerating. Of course, there's a lot of logistics to unpack there. Like how's this private liberal arts college paying for this? You can see that the instructors were called professor instead of being called teacher, right? They're using that kind of language, and actually they are employees of Bard College. And we can unpack all those logistics and all those questions that we have to answer. We do have to answer. However, what stuck with me from that school that I can't get out of my head is the possibility inherent in that particular moment. Linda Darling Hammond, in the work that we do at NextGen, talks about a thinking curriculum, that the model of deeper learning, what deeper learning is pursuing, and that's what we pursue at our center, is deeper learning. It's pursuing a thinking curriculum for all kids, that all kids should have access to the most complex thoughts, to philosophy like Descartes, like the kid can cite Descartes' story, right? Like in high school. That's a thinking curriculum. And the core of a lot of what we consider to be this sort of cherished notion of college, like if the College of Arts and Sciences, Dr. Paulin is in here at the University of Kentucky, like there's this cherished idea of sort of access to a core thinking curriculum that all kids should get access to. That's why we have a UK core courses, and each institution has its own sort of core courses, because we want to make sure that you are thinking deeply about the world and experienced to many different things. By bringing the intentionality of early college into high school, you can open up that thinking curriculum. To me, that's the most valuable part. The credits are nice, the cost savings is nice, the accelerated time to degree is nice. All those things are nice. What is more valuable than all of that is you can unbuild the traditional high school and rebuild some new thing. And in that new thing, you can do a different kind of learning experience. And to me, that's what is the most promising part of this particular space that we want to spend time exploring next time when we get back together. Ben, over to you for how do we begin to shape what we want to do next time together. I've got some ideas, but we want you all to give us feedback. You're muted, Ben.
Thanks. We began and ended. We began it with the person talking on mute. We'll end it with the person talking on mute. We've only been doing this for like 3 years. So we have our pad that we have a Think, Puzzle, Explore. And so we want to sort of gather your thoughts and hear your thoughts and see what you want to sort of explore and what's sort of puzzling you about this space, as well as sort of what you're thinking. So currently at this point, what are your thoughts on this space, this dual credit or college and high school? So what do you think currently about this topic? And it can be anything. Puzzle, what sort of questions do you have about what's still unclear? What's puzzling you? And then what is intriguing to you? So what areas do you want to explore? And so the areas that you want to explore might come out of some of the things that puzzle you. So just take a sec to think. And you don't have to answer all of them if you can't think of something to add to each of these 3 different categories, but definitely give us some thoughts in either the Think, Puzzle, Explore, or all 3. And this will help us sort of gauge where your thinking's at, help us clarify and synthesize our thinking, as well as help us to sort of design with intentionality our next session. Oh yeah, love it. Logistics, that's a huge one. I'm puzzled about like in my setting. So like if my kids want to access this, who would pay for it? Because my kids go to a private school and it's an international school. And so how does that whole thing play out? I'm super interested in that. So I'm going to put that in puzzle.
I just want to share an experience as a mom. This is something that I'm puzzled as. So I have 3 children. My oldest was in high school. He didn't have a lot of dual credit opportunities. They attended a small rural school. So when my second was a junior, they were able to take college classes through JCTC. There's JCTC is only about 20 minutes. So the school provided transportation. So that was great. They ended up I think with about 24 college credit hours. They're also an athlete. We had a school in Kentucky that offered them academics or athletic scholarships. Very interested, love the campus. But it was puzzling to me that this particular college did not accept her dual credit courses. They would not transfer. So that's something that puzzled me. Other schools did. That particular one did not. She ended up, it was not you, Justin. She ended up at UK for a couple semesters and then ended up in Murray, and that's where she graduated, and it was great. So now my third daughter actually had the opportunity to start taking dual credit courses the second semester of her sophomore year, which, by the way, as a parent and an educator, I think that's the timeline. I think the maturity there, second semester, sophomore year is a good starting spot. So she will actually end up with 36. Her whole senior year of high school right now is nothing but college classes. So we know the places that she wants to go. They will accept those. But that's something that was puzzling to me, is everyone going to take those?
Yeah, definitely add that on, because I think that's a really super important point. And I think other people, that might spark some discussion for our second group as well. So thanks for sharing that, Michelle.
Yeah, it's a massive question higher ed is trying to figure out right now. And as I put in the chat, some schools like Vanderbilt and Duke say absolutely not, none of this counts. And then the big research institutions like UK are a little bit all over the place. It depends a lot on state policy about what they decide to take and what they're trying to do. Small private schools like a Center College here in Kentucky may or may not. It's a complete, that's a random. Hanover College might, Center College might not. So it's just completely random. And then your regional publics tend to generally take all of it. So in your space, MKU would usually take almost all of it. So different institution types lead to different answers on that question right now. And what is it about? It's about money, of course, and we can unpack it next time.
Right. And so the school that my youngest is more interested in right now is in Indiana. So that has been the very first question with her admission counselor is, here is her college transcript. Will you accept these? So it is a conversation that we are definitely have, so we don't run into that again.
I love the question on vertically prepare K-8. So I really do think what's happening, we'll unpack more next time, is that the junior year of high school is now becoming the primary entry point of college. So if the junior year of high school is your primary entry point to college, then how do they need to be ready? And what do we need to be doing differently in middle school to help the kids be ready to go to college, essentially as 15, 16-year-old kids? Okay, good. Anything else? Throw it down there. Things you're curious about. I mean, look, if you give me things to, you know how much I love it. I will spend hours going and researching a question. So if you want some answers, this is a good time to put the stuff down you want some answers to.
And also this Padlet is available. So if you get home and you're cooking dinner and something pops in your mind like, oh, I didn't think about this at the time, but I need this answer. Go ahead and put it in. I love this question about how to support high school teachers to become accredited to teach dual enrollment. I think I would add to that, how do we help support guidance counselors and dual credit administrators in high schools so that they're correctly advising and helping students through the processes of college too. So I'm going to add that. Thank you.
So, and you can see on the Padlet a little preview of what's up next, and you can go ahead and peek in if you want to before Thursday. Innovative models that we love, fully online schools. So you can see Arizona State is running its own high school. Some of what we're seeing is college beginning to fully replace high school, like not work together, not dual, forget all that. College is just taking over the high school space. And so that's what that column is about. And you can scroll down and see Stanford and Mizzou, and there's other places that are doing this, pretty big name places, and I'll put more there. Then there's innovative models that we love from colleges. There's innovative models that we love from high schools, and I'll have more when we get together next time. But we'll sort of turn a bit into that direction, as well as sort of working to answer some of the questions that you all just posed for us when we get back together on Thursday. All right, good?
All right.
Yay. Thank you all for joining. And we'll Thursday, 8 a.m., we'll do it again, and we'll get into sort of this innovative space and how we can begin to design with intentionality.